work to remember the people who have died of AIDS. We have 298 signs, and we need people to volunteer to help carry the signs. Just let one of the marshals with the purple armband know, and we'll give you a sign. So we'll start organizing it now.
I can't change the world. The same thing that happened to the Ermine Center is happening to the Pasco. That's the symbol.
Hi, Mitch. We get around, don't we? The hospital's co-sponsors. That's what I'm saying. If you want
Sorry about that. Right.
Fish, get a shot back there. Look at that.
Push the top up.
One of the people at work said the other day said I come around and said, I said, oh, I get it. It doesn't matter how good you are or how good you probably how you
You can stay with us. I'd love to have you was all of my free time. Look how fast it's running out.
I want to go back to
Hi, Sam. Only
But you know, it's really funny. You know, like we used to meet.
I know he's from the streets.
I'm sure he's. Look at that. Look at the cameraman under the.
Mitch. Hello. You didn't even take off that shirt.
Good evening. Stay that way.
Funding program. Hello. Tape it, tape it.
How you doing?
Smile. Cross our heart, cross.
I'm smiling.
That's something you went out.
Do you know how many people are watching?
probably about 1,000.
Oh, great.
Just over this way.
There's a knife there. We'll let it go.
David.
Please, my God.
Nick, can you walk up here and ride? Amazing.
Hello, Mitch. Hi.
Giggles!
You're not going to live that down anymore.
Battery pressure.
one. Don't fight over it.
Bye. Bye. Step aside. Let me get one of you giving it to me.
What they do, going around City Hall and then coming back down? I'm going to set up over there. There you are. Hi. There. Any more candles? More cups? Candles. How about a box? Just give us a box. Cups of candles. Where are they? Over on the plaza.
Okay. Candles on the other side of the How about cups? Cups. I need cups.
We'll give you candles. Let's get to the other side. You need a candle. You get it on the other side. Okay, let's close it up here.
Let's play that to that. We're going to talk up the line.
Close up the line a little bit.
You know what? We'll help do this. Sorry, no. Money program? Yes. Unfortunately, there is very little sound. So, that's nuts. We got to get
Did you hear that? No sound or light? stopped raining. How you doing?
I would hate to trip over this driveway.
Yes. Okay. Danny just working. All right. Together with that blue actually, I think the nation will the city's only contributing the city could do more. Definitely could do more, but remember, we do not have a incredible form. That was a fight. That was a start. Very humble man. Comfortable living with we got the money. You know, the city's government. Yeah, she's here. She's have a limitation. Mark? Well, she's here, but where is she? Remain is here, she's on the stage. She's back there. Don't hold me responsible for my dog.
In about 5 minutes, we should be ready to go. Thank you all for your patience, and can we please give everybody a big hand for doing this tonight?
Here we go. Oh, here we go. I'll sing it in. How many people know? Hey,
Testing one.
Testing 1, 1, 2, 1, 2. Vice President of the Philadelphia AIDS Task Force, and I would like to welcome and thank all of you for supporting this event. Not long ago, AIDS was something we only read about, but now it is directly affecting all of our lives. Many of us have lost family, friends, and colleagues. All of us have felt the cold touch of fear. It is no longer possible to think of AIDS as a disease that affects someone else. It threatens everyone, regardless of race, sex, or sexual orientation. Hence, a coalition of women and men of many communities has come together tonight to give voice to our concern and to bear witness to our commitment in the fight against this cruel disease. The purpose of this walk is threefold. We wish to memorialize the men, women, and children who have died of AIDS, and I believe we've done that. We testify to our support and concern for those now afflicted with AIDS in all the communities in Philadelphia. And we appeal for increased funding from Philadelphia and Pennsylvania to help in the struggle to save lives. For members of the press, there is a press packet available to you over here to my left side of the stage. It is indeed an honor and very humbling for me to be so lucky to stand up before all of you and see what I see tonight. I am very emotional. So I'm going to move right along, because if I think about what this means to me personally, and I'm sure it's shared by all of you, I won't be able to speak too effectively. So we will begin our program. We have 4 major segments of our program, broken up in between by a combination of several choirs. If you refer to your program, you will see that the Anacrusis Women's Chorus is represented here tonight. The Spruce Street Singers, Philadelphia Gay Men's Chorus, Metropolitan Community Church Chancel, the Chancel Choir, Reverend Joseph Gilbert has corrected me, Metropolitan Community Church Chancel Choir, Dignity of Philadelphia Choir, and Triumph, a Gospel Choir. They will be singing together in between our speakers this evening. I would like to introduce this evening a woman who is known to most people in Philadelphia activist communities. She is a woman who has stood at the forefront of human rights and our endeavor to express ourselves in the community of Philadelphia. And this woman is our first speaker, and I would like to introduce to you a woman I have a great deal of respect for, Rabbi Linda Holtzman.
Thank you. I wish that everyone here could walk up to this platform and see how extraordinary you look. This is the most wonderful thing. It's just incredible. In Leaves of Grass, Walt Whitman wrote, "I sing the body electric. The army of those I love engulf me, and I engulf them. They will not let me off till I go with them, respond to them, and discorrupt them, and charge them full with the charge of the soul." This is our purpose tonight. Our walk, our flames, our togetherness. We are the body electric, all of us together. We are here to surround, to engirth all our brothers and sisters with AIDS with love, to charge them full as we ourselves share the charge of this soul. All of us, those of us with AIDS, those of us who are here in support of them, all of us together, we are sharing to give the charge of the soul. So we ask, where do we find something to charge our soul with? And we answer by simply looking around. This is electricity. This is the body electric. Together we have the force to share a powerful charge. The force is so strong that tonight it's almost a discernible presence. And from this charge, we can begin to learn some answers that we've been searching for a long time. We often wonder where in this very crazy world we can find God. How can we still, in the face of AIDS, how can we still, in the face of a dread disease that wipes out our brothers and sisters, how can we still believe? How can we still feel that there's something powerful in this world? Tonight we have our answer. We can find God right here within all of us together. All of us have heard preachers stand up on television even and say that God causes AIDS. We've heard people talk about punishment. We've heard people talk about sin. We are here together to stand firmly and to state clearly for the world to hear that God does not cause AIDS. It is as absurd to say that God is punishing people with AIDS as to say that God punishes young children with cancer or old people with heart disease. It's an absurd or ridiculous statement. We know that God is not in the disease-causing business. The God who we have found being here together tonight is a God who instead gives us the strength to endure grave illness. It's the God who gives us the power to support our friends who are suffering. It's the God who keeps the charge of our soul awake within us. It's the God who enables us to charge others with it. We all know that any God of love, that any God of compassion, that any God of healing is not going to punish people with dread disease. Any God of justice would hardly act so cruelly. And if such a God ever did, we would all stop believing at once. So tonight, what are we doing? Tonight, in a very real way, we're celebrating. We're celebrating the fact that all of us together are able to support each other. That all of us together are able to care for each other. That all of us together are able to cross all kinds of differences, all kinds of boundaries. That we are able to truly love each other. All of us tonight are here making the same statement that Walt Whitman made. We sing the body electric. The armies of those we love engulf us, and we engulf them. They will not let us off until we go with them, respond to them, and discorrupt them, and charge them full with the charge of the soul. Tonight we pray that that charge will stay alive within us long after this evening has left. That charge may empower us all to continue to work in love, in strength, in togetherness. Thank you.
A couple of years ago, and I had the great fortune of meeting Joe's mom as he was suffering from his illness of AIDS.
You know, as I was coming down here this evening, I prayed very hard. I wasn't sure just what I was going to say, because I am not a speaker. I've never spoken before this many people in my life. And I pray that the Lord would let me know just what to say and how to say it, and give me the strength to do just that. I'm here because of my son Joseph, whom I loved very dearly, who I am very proud of, who I miss terribly, and who suffered from this dreaded disease. And I promised that the Lord would see me and give me the strength to help wherever and however I could. I know there are those who don't agree with us. I am so happy that the rabbi got up and said many of the things that have been on my heart. I do not worship a God that punishes. AIDS is not something that is being used because of our sin. My sins have been washed away. They've been forgiven. Yours have too. All the time, from the time that you do them till the day you die. He died for those sins. He's not going to punish us. He's going to give us strength to love. He's a loving God. That's who I worship. My Savior, Jesus Christ, whom I know and whom my son knew very closely, loves you all. I love you. And Joe loved you. And if he were alive, he would be here to tell you that. And he would do everything he could. In fact, when he knew how sick he was, he started to write about all the different things he has investigated to treat AIDS. And I know through the help of some of the people here, I'm going to be able to share those things. Joe probably thought he was going to be able to conquer this disease through some of them, but he never got the chance. And there was a lot of money and a lot of time spent. And I know that he would want me to share these things, and that's what I intend to do. I look at that statue, and I think of parents who have turned their backs on their children because they're gay, or because they have AIDS, or because they're this, or because they're that. They don't please them. They don't do what they want them to do. God forgive them. All they have to do is love those children, and they're going to turn out to be the best people this world has ever known.
Thank you, Edie. Now we are going to have a song by our combined choirs.
This is a very impressive sight. Very impressive sight. It says we have today Todo el día tenemos hoy, solo hoy tenemos hoy, y siempre tendremos hoy, tendremos hoy, tendremos hoy. Let me say, a good friend of mine, Congressman Bob Edgar, is fond of defining. Look at the polls tonight. He needs your help. We need to get him in there, by the way. So please come out and help him win this election. But he is fond of defining the role of government as safeguarding the rights of three types of citizens. Those in the dawns of life, the youth. Those in the twilight of life, the elderly. And those in the shadows of life, the poor, the infirm, and the disabled. We gather here tonight to insist on protection of these rights. Even as we mourn the passing of those dear to us, we join together from every walk of life, both rich and poor, gay and straight, a truly multiracial, multinational crowd. This killer among us knows no discrimination. And it's about time that we took AIDS out of the closet and put it into national perspective. It has to become a priority because it's killing everybody. It's killing babies. It's killing old people, women and men, both straight and gay. It strikes in each one of our communities and robs us of our friends and neighbors, colleagues and lovers. We grieve their loss, those who have died of AIDS. The sudden departure leaves us only with the memories of times, good and bad, of their weaknesses and strength, and of their hopes and dreams, very cut short, never to be realized. The grief is palpable. You can feel it in this crowd tonight, here in this mist, as we stand together in memory of the 298 who have died within this region. Yet, the strength of this community has turned grief to support for those now afflicted with AIDS. There can be no better way to remember our dead than to work tirelessly for the living, for through them we say we may preserve the hopes and dreams of those who have gone before. The recent announcement by the federal government that AZT will be made available to a large number of people with AIDS can only be considered the beginning, not the end, of what must be done. The federal government must be held accountable for a greater level of funding for research towards a cure and for support of services for the ailing. On a state level, and those of us who are in the midst of a campaign to elect the governor, we got to understand this. On a state level, almost nothing has been done, despite the clear and present need that we demonstrate tonight. I believe that in this city, some progress has been made. Mayor Good issued an executive order which banned discrimination against people with AIDS. The city administration has worked hard and successfully to combat AIDS hysteria, which has run rampant in other cities. Together with City Council, not all of it, but a good group of us, the mayor has secured funding for housing, public education, health care, and outreach. I know not enough. But that will take care in '87 by electing the right type of city council. And you got to remember that.
All right, now, here.
I know that, but we have to do what we can do with what we have. With demonstrations like this, we might be able to get more. I will fight for more. I have some colleagues with me that will fight for more. But we do not have yet the majority there to say we need $500,000, $1 million for the AIDS task force. We do not have that. We need it, but we do not have it at the present moment. That is up to you to be able to achieve that. By this type of demonstration, by this type of movement, by taking and continuing to take action the way you have done tonight. We must also support those who are at risk. The Hispanic community faces the fastest rate of growth of any group contracting AIDS. We must dedicate ourselves to let everyone know that this is a disease that will affect us all, not just one group. As I have traveled the city in the past year, the link between intravenous drug use and AIDS has been readily apparent. This also must become a part of the educational materials as we attempt to contain the spread of this deadly virus. At times, this is all very frustrating, and I understand that frustration when you say we need more. And I say to you, we need more. But I am only one voice. We need many more voices, just like we have here tonight, to begin saying we need more. We cannot let people continue to die within this city, this state, and this nation. We have things that complicate our work, like the Supreme Court. The hard work decision. And now we have the Chief Justice of the United States, Mr. Batchel himself, Rehnquist. So we are in danger. We all are in danger by the things that have been happening. But this only says that we have to intensify our resolve. We must really get out there. We cannot become the victims of our rage and anger at the very moment that we're overwhelmed with a sense of grief and loss. There's much to do, but it is not impossible. Not when a group like this one puts its mind and energy towards it. Let us turn our grief not to anger, but to action. Let us work tirelessly together to support those in the shadow, to protect those in the dawn, and to ensure the well-being of those in the twilight. Let us get together. Let us move on. Let us end AIDS in this decade, within this generation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you all for being here tonight. I'm very pleased to see this outpouring of support for those who have AIDS, for those who will get AIDS in the future, and for those that we may save from getting AIDS. 4 years ago, when we began the AIDS Task Force in Philadelphia, it was up to volunteers to begin to fight against what was already being perceived as a major public health problem. 3 years ago, we went to Harrisburg asking what the state was going to do when there were fewer than 100 cases in the entire state. They said, we have no money. Today, with nearly 600 cases in the state, and surpluses of $200 million a year, and a governor who reports that he's saving $31 million a year on postage, we have finally gotten some money for AIDS education. $150,000. The goal of the administration in the state of Pennsylvania is to have fewer than 4,800 cases per year in 1990 in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. It's hard for me to even conceive of how many people 4,800 are who we are trying to keep only that many getting AIDS in 1990 with $150,000. That's about 1/10 of a cent per citizen in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. There's been no money from the state for support services for people with AIDS, inadequate money for education. The state of Maine, with 24 cases, this total is spending 10 times this year the amount that Pennsylvania is spending. Philadelphia lags far behind other cities with smaller rates of cases in government support for both education and support services for people with AIDS. This is a national disgrace. What we need to do is demand that something be done to save our lives and the lives of those we love. We need to contact our elected officials and demand that something be done about this health crisis. It's not enough just to come out here tonight. This is a beginning, but we have to keep the pressure on. It is no longer something that can be dealt with solely by volunteer efforts. We have to demand that the people that we pay to deal with public health and provide services for those who are ill through the government do their jobs. Thank you for coming out, and I hope you will continue to support us.
Who will talk to you about the needs of minority communities and what he plans to do to lead Philadelphia in this effort. I give you Mr. Ted Johnson. Please welcome him.
A young black man by the name of Pete, in his early 30s, grew up recalling have not been close to his family because of his sexuality. As a child, he chose an extended family member to become very close to, and just so happened this was a black gay male. This single new parent became his parental as well as his spiritual guardian. When Tom discovered that he had AIDS within a 3-month period, his physical and spiritual self became intrinsically interwoven with despair and hopelessness. In recalling his Christian teachings that God will take care of you, became mere muttering words of emptiness. As for his provider, forced unemployment, along with caring for his new sick family member, compelled him to remain in his spiritual as well as maintained his strength. Having to chant, "His eyes is on the sparrow," became his words of assurance as well as encouragement of faith that will deliver the suffering. His personal life no longer belonged to him. His days became days of interviews, no thank yous, no shows, care for me, I can't, I won't, I don't feel like it today. He began to spin and spin until a universe of immeasurable worthlessness tried spinning inside. Seemingly, Spiritual intervention brought no cure for unemployment. It brought no cure to his friends' physical and spiritual needs. It brought no hope of closeness for Pete and his family. Brought no cure to the bills that continued to pile up. Tears of mercy fell upon both of them. Pete died. His guardian lives on. Now his guardian is employed and working diligently for the cause. Pete, as well as his friend, I believe, truly understand that I am my brother's keeper. A white female who appeared to be in her early 20s, I have to share this with you because it's very important. A white female who appeared to be in her early 20s fell on the corner of Broad and Vine. I was not sure if the young lady was sick or just totally inebriated. Many passed by looking at the situation with concern. There was a white male assisting her. His facial expression showed no compassion. He began yelling, "We only have a short distance before we are there." In a slouch position, she attempted to walk, using his body for support. My eyes looked down the street to see where they could be possibly going. The only sign that I saw was Hahnemann Hospital. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. As I passed the two struggling individuals, I noticed that the young lady's eyes were extremely dark. Immediately, my eyes noticed her bare arms, which suggested that drugs had imprisoned her physically. General questions emerged as I continued my slow southern pace forward. I wondered if this young lady, like other young ladies that I've known, had to sell her body for drugs. And if so, were the men black? Were they white? Were they Hispanic? Were they married? Were they single? Were they heterosexual? Whether they were bisexual? Most important, the thought came to me, could she possibly be a carrier of AIDS? I wonder who will be her brother's keeper. The Minority Outreach Coordinator, along with 705,120 blacks and Hispanics and Asian Americans, along with Bibashi, Impact, Concerned Advocates, PCHA, Action AIDS, must address a greater issue. That issue is that a disease is killing people by 1992, then there will be car deaths. The national statistics have shown that 25% of the AIDS cases are black, 14% are Latin American. In the city of Philadelphia alone, we rank number 7 of all the AIDS cases reported in the nation. Strikingly, we find that there are 49.9% are black. Among the Puerto Rican community, there is 6.3%. It doesn't take very much intelligence to realize that we are much higher than that of the national norm. We have a lot of work before us to do. Out of the 705,126 minorities living in Philadelphia, we have a great deal of work to do. If you can imagine, I used to be a teacher, and we used to have about 30 kids per classroom at each individual period. We might have seen about 150 throughout the day. But I alone cannot teach 705,126 minorities. I need your support. It is also my job to inform the Black and Puerto Rican communities that through advertisement, news media, that this disease is not just a homosexual or bisexual disease. It is a disease that is killing the Black and Hispanic families. We got to learn to tell the truth in these communities. Philadelphia is known for the sounds of Philly. Black musicians and Black disc jockeys. We need to approach them with the message to carry out the sounds that we need a new approach to the AIDS issue. We need to impact all of us under the sound of my voice tonight, need to get involved in working with the minority community. We need your support. PCHA cannot do it alone. Bibashi cannot do it alone. Impact cannot do it alone. And of course, one minority outreach coordinator cannot do the task alone. We need your support. I can't do it by myself. But I'd like to acknowledge some people that have been very, very supportive of me, and not to say that there has not been a great deal of support, but these people are very dear and very special to me and have helped me to impact the Philadelphia community. I'd like to mention their names right now. Tyrone Smith, he's been his brother's keeper. James Roberts, if he's here. Mrs. Rashida Hassan, been very supportive. My dear personal friend David Fair, and Councilman Ortiz. As a teacher, one of the things that kind of helped to break the ice a little bit, and one of the things that I like to see done here tonight at the Candlelight Vigil, is I want you to turn to your neighbor, one to your right and one to your left, and I want you to repeat these words. I am my brother's keeper. Come on. I am my brother's keeper. I am my brother's keeper. Thank you. Good night.
That agenda is to demand, not request, but demand that the city of Philadelphia and the state of Pennsylvania finally recognize, as all of us have, the tremendous threat and the tremendous need these 5 years of the AIDS epidemic have brought to bear on all of us. The city and state must respond in real and increased dollars to the escalation in the number of new cases of AIDS in Philadelphia, the metropolitan area, and the state. As the epidemic has spread, the city of Philadelphia has done little outside of funding a staff position and funding seed money for a housing program for people with AIDS. Bullshit. While we appreciate these initial efforts, we must emphasize they are but the barest beginnings. The city government must do much more on behalf of AIDS education and services for its citizens. The financial needs of the Philadelphia AIDS Task Force and many other organizations are growing at a rate beyond belief. The immediate needs of the Philadelphia AIDS Task Force from year to year have been a growth in the need for funds of 37% per year. By 1991, it is estimated there will be 1,400 cases of people living with AIDS in the Philadelphia metropolitan area. That means PATF will need approximately $3.1 million just to do what it is currently doing. Who will provide this funding? The private sector has been very generous to PATF, and we are most grateful. Individuals from many communities and backgrounds have worked tirelessly on behalf of people with AIDS, and we salute them. But the private sector and private individuals cannot possibly come up with the money and effort required, nor should they have to. I would like to repeat some of the recent statements of the Pittsburgh AIDS Task Force. We join them in demanding that the administration of Governor Richard Thornburg do something at this point. Even acknowledging the epidemic would be a start. The governor has yet to utter one word on this issue. He has failed desperately to develop a public health policy on this illness. His administration has developed no comprehensive program to prevent the spread of the disease within the Commonwealth. He has neglected to propose any activities to the legislature to meet the growing medical and non-medical needs of people with AIDS. While the Thornburg administration does nothing, the Pennsylvania healthcare industry is facing a dramatic increase in AIDS-related costs. Researchers at the Center for Disease Control have estimated that each case of AIDS results in approximately $150,000 in direct and indirect medical costs. Yet the entire Pennsylvania state AIDS education budget for this fiscal year is only $150,000. Maryland, Massachusetts, Ohio, New Jersey, and other neighboring states have long-standing aggressive educational programs to prevent AIDS. Massachusetts is spending $4.7 million in 1986, while Maine, with only 24 reported cases, is planning to spend $240,000. Pennsylvania is doing virtually nothing. We call upon the governor to take an active role to plan and coordinate effective AIDS prevention projects, as has been recommended by the Center for Disease Control and the Philadelphia AIDS Task Force, and to fund projects to prevent the spread of AIDS. We lift our voices to proclaim that AIDS is a disease that affects everyone. Agencies responsible for the public welfare must respond with much greater vigor. Contact your elected officials this fall as budgets are being prepared. Let them know what their priorities should be. Lives depend on it. Thank you. In Harrisburg has been an advocate for lesbians and gay men since her election to office some time ago. It is no secret to anybody involved in the movement to combat AIDS in Philadelphia or the state of Pennsylvania that one of our best friends is the Honorable Babette Josephs. She represents Philadelphia District 182 in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. It is with a great deal of pride that I introduce a true representative of ours, the Honorable Babette Josephs.
Great. I have to echo the remarks that Rabbi Holtzman made, that we all look wonderful here. And I would like everybody, please, to raise their candle, because it looks so energizing and so inspiring. For those of us who are here, it's beautiful, who can see it from here. Thank you. I want to thank the organizers of this event for inviting me here. I'm very pleased and very proud that this truly inspiring experience is happening right in the 182nd District. And I welcome all of you here and hope that there will be many more of these kinds of speak outs, marches, rallies, talks here in this district and in every other district in this Commonwealth. Many of the speakers before me have talked about the real dismal prospect on the state level. I'd like to talk about two of my colleagues' little stories that might illustrate in a more personal way why this is the case. One of them is a person who represents a district in Allegheny County. He cast a vote of which we would all approve and discovered, lo and behold, that people came into his office off of the street, shook his hand, and said to him, "I am gay, I am a lesbian person, I would like to help you, I have a check for you, I support you, I thank you for your vote." And this representative said to me when he was telling me this story, "You know, Babette, I'm ashamed now to say this, but when I first saw this big, burly guy hold out his check and say, 'I'm gay,' I was astonished." The second story is worse. I mean, this representative did learn something valuable and is proud of having learned that. Another one of my colleagues said to me as we were having a discussion about gay and lesbians' rights, as it turned out to be, not AIDS, he said, "Babette, I don't have to worry about that issue. I don't have any of those people in my district." I don't want to say his name in public because I don't want to antagonize him. What I want is, it's not in Philadelphia. It's not in Philadelphia. The district is in rural Pennsylvania in the Poconos. What I want to happen What I want to happen is the people that you know and the people that I know in that district coming into his office in Harrisburg, in his district office, writing him letters, calling him on the phone and saying, "Guess what, fellow? I'm concerned about this." It's funny because we know better, but they're the people who have the power and they don't know better. My colleagues, most of them, if not all of them, are firmly convinced that every single gay man and lesbian woman in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania lives in my district. I know that there are very significant and difficult barriers for people to even just come out to their families and their friends, and in lots of ways those are intensified if you're going to try and lobby an elected official. That is a public act. And I don't want to minimize what those barriers are. But I think two things. We have many allies. We have people who can speak to elected officials from a public health standpoint, from a civil rights standpoint, and don't ever have to talk about what their own sexuality is or isn't. And we have members of families and friends and colleagues, and we have ourselves. We need very much to be standing on a beautiful misty night with candles and listening to people speak with incredible patience. I must say, I commend you all. I give you a hand. But we need very much also to be talking to our legislators, to my colleagues, to the people in City Council, and to the people that make up the Pennsylvania delegation to Congress and to the United States Senate. They do not hear unless they get the message in 100 different ways. Somebody comes in their office, somebody gives them a check, lots of people write them a letter, lots of people call them up, people write letters to the newspapers. All of those activities are very, very, very valuable. As I said, I'm really proud to I'm really proud to be here. I think that this is, and all of these efforts, a wonderful step. We have a lot of strength here. It needs to be translated into political clout. We can do it together, and we're going to do it now.
Everybody, please welcome Triumph.
I never knew till think it's terribly, terribly unfair to put me on after Triumph. I think one of the things that Triumph did was to epitomize what has happened to black people all of my life, and probably since they landed here on this continent. And that's to suffer prayerfully, but to suffer nonetheless. One of the reasons that Bibashi had to come into being was because those organizations that existed to provide public health education for minority people didn't, couldn't, haven't, won't provide education for the minority community. Today I had to really study hard as to what I was going to say. And one of the things I thought I better define was, what is a minority? Tell them about. Webster's dictionary says that a minority is the smaller, inferior part compared to the unimportant in size and degree. That we are a part of a population different from others in some characteristics and are often subject to differential treatment. As in other health issues, black people are also being discriminated against, even within the gay community, when it comes to being educated about AIDS. Right there. We have worked very diligently in Bibashi with the Philadelphia AIDS Task Force. We were committed to participating and networking with a variety of organizations whose intent was to provide minority education. When I started with the task force 2.5 years ago, the statistics were even. In the white community, there was 84 cases. In fact, this time last year. And in the black community, there were 81 cases, and everybody was committed. Resources were committed, and we fought, and we went on public education trips to present information about the disease that was affecting the people. And then the numbers began to change. And last November, Bibashi, along with other groups, including the Philadelphia AIDS Task Force, said it's time to do something about the changes in the numbers, which were representing an increase in the number of cases among blacks particularly, and what has become now a problem in the Hispanic community. In January of this year in Philadelphia, there were 231 cases of AIDS confirmed by the Philadelphia Health Department. At that time, 112 cases, half the number, were among blacks. 13 were among Hispanics. The other day I received a report from the health department that said as effective July 31st, there were 338 confirmed cases of AIDS in Philadelphia, and 168 of them are now black. 148 are among whites. 21 now among Hispanics, and we just got a minority educator coordinator for the Philadelphia AIDS Task Force. Now, I know some of you may be offended by the fact that I would say anything against the Philadelphia AIDS Task Force. But I think what's important to understand is that's where the resources are, and our people, minority, those differing comparatively to the population, have the right to be educated, have the right to have resources committed, have the right to stand here with you and say that we are dying from this disease and you're making it our disease. If in your presentations to your community you don't remember the Hispanics and you don't remember the blacks, I guarantee you we will be there to haunt you for it. Bibashi is committed to providing the minority services that need to exist for the minority community. In your paper, you'll see two important features I would like you to cast your eyes upon. One of them is the picture of those that we are marching for. You will find one black, could be Hispanic individual on that paper. What it really should be is one white man, one white woman, and the rest of them ought to be black or Hispanic. I want you to be angry with me. I want you to be upset. And then I'd like you to turn that energy to committing yourselves to seeing that minority people obtain the same treatment, the same empowerment to suffer from this disease, to get away from it, to have health care as you have. The second item I'd like you to look at is where it says that I am the Vice President of the Philadelphia Community Health Alternatives. I was duly elected to that position with the whole intent that I might have some impact, if you prefer, pardon me for having to use that acronym, IMPACT. That's the minority perspective that is supposed to affect the policies of the task force. But because after this time period, 2.5 years of trying to impact the task force with a minority perspective, I resigned. I have resigned. Bibashi is out there. Those who are interested in comfort care, because that's what we call our buddies, there are black PWAs who need to have someone who understands their cultural as well as their physical needs. That's the difference that Triumph brought. We have a friend. We need some friends. I would like to close by saying that it is not my intent to pretend that all of this wonderful, compassionate feeling doesn't mean something. We need that. We need to hold hands, and we need to fight and struggle together. But I want you to remember that while you're fighting, there are those who are different from you who need to have a voice in how things are done. And we would like to network with you. And one of the things that I want to do is to remind you that through my candle, that there are black people dying in this city from AIDS because they are ignorant, because they do not recognize that it is not just a white gay disease. And I ask your help and your support in trying to provide that information to that community. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine.
Now we'll move on.
Anna Forbes.
Thank you. I'll tell you, these acts are getting harder and harder to follow. I don't know what I'm going to do. I believe you. I'm sorry if the use of the word offended you. But the remarks and the presentations are getting very moving and very important, and I'm very glad you're all here tonight. I know you've hung in for a long time. Hang in a little bit longer. There's just me and then one other person, and then you can all go home and see if this is on the news. Before I do anything else, and I know this may not seem like a big deal, but I think it really is a big deal. There's a lot of people to be thanked tonight, but I would like to extend a special thanks to the owners of the bars and the people who work in the bars who've sold all the T-shirts. We have raised, I understand, literally thousands of dollars from this. It makes a good memento for the event, and I want to thank them for their cooperation and their support. I'd also like to raise a point of information. For those of you who haven't already heard, let me say a word about what ActionAIDS is. ActionAIDS is a newly formed organization providing direct supportive services to people affected by AIDS and ARC. We are a new name, but we are not new faces. ActionAIDS is made primarily up of the volunteers who until recently were members of the Support Services Committee of PATF. We are continuing our provision of direct buddy services, currently being provided to 110 people with AIDS. We are running 7 support groups that serve people with AIDS and ARC, their families, their friends, and their lovers. We're also providing a whole range of case management services and making referrals to AIDS-sensitive clergy, psychotherapists, legal help, and other human services. ActionAIDS is new and it's growing. There has been no interruption in the buddy system's work or in any other services as a result of this organizational change. Now, I have been working with the buddy system. I have been doing intake with people with AIDS. I'd like to tell you a few real quick stories. Let me tell you a story. These are true stories, And some of you out there already know them because you are the ones who have lived them. This is a story about a young man who became a buddy, and he was assigned to another young man, one who was in the hospital probably for the last time. The buddy came to visit every day, but there really didn't seem to be much that he could do. The person with AIDS was too weak to even talk most of the time. And then one day the buddy, not knowing what else to do, started to rub the man's feet. The man really liked this. He'd been in pain for so long that he'd almost forgotten that any part of his body could feel good at all. The man died one morning not too long after, and that evening the man's friends invited the buddy to go with them to sit in the man's garden. Together they shared their thoughts and their feelings and their grief. Let me tell you a story. This is a story about a man who became buddies with an older woman, a woman who had spent much of her life drug addicted and alone. She had been periodically homeless, and when he first met her, she was hospitalized with AIDS, very sick and very much alone indeed. He visited her. He found second-hand clothes for her to wear because she'd been evicted from the boarding home she'd been living in when it was discovered that she had AIDS, and all of her clothes had been stolen. After she was discharged, he continued to visit her in the hospice where she lived. He took her out for ice cream. She said that he was the first real friend that she'd had in years and years. Let me tell you a story. This is a story about a woman who became buddies with a man who thought at first that he didn't want a buddy. He had been a city employee in a really tough job, and none of his coworkers had ever known or suspected that he was gay. And then he got AIDS. He lived alone and he really needed help, but he was afraid to ask for it because he didn't want word to get out about him. Finally, he asked for a buddy. This woman was sensitive to his situation, not invading his privacy, but being there when he needed her. After he died, the press got a hold of this man's story and published it in the newspaper. They thought it was really sensational that this man, who happened to have had a supposedly macho, tough profession, had gotten AIDS and had died of it, and none of his coworkers had even known that he was gay. The buddy called me in a rage on the day the paper came out. That man's privacy had been so much her concern that even after her death, she found herself infuriated that it had been violated. These are all true incidents, and they're the tip of the iceberg. They're 3 out of hundreds, and each incident is as unique as the individual behind it. The point I'm trying to make here is that it is individual people, it is real people like all of us who are getting AIDS, and it is real individual people who are choosing to do something active to confront the AIDS crisis. Sometimes I'm afraid that the statistics and the numbers and the news reports obscure that fact. I am certain that the people getting AIDS often do not seem like real individuals to those in positions of power, like the ones Babette was talking about earlier, who are the ones who decide on the state and federal levels of funding for AIDS research and services. How could anybody talk calmly about a caseload that's doubling every year? If one were to really think hard about the fact that this means 186 people in Philadelphia right now are living with AIDS, and this time next year, 372 will be in Philadelphia living with AIDS. So what do we do about that? What do we do to make the suffering of hundreds of individuals with AIDS and ARC real to the people with the money and the power to help? Well, I'll tell you. First, we have to let it become real to us. First, we have to engage actively in dealing with the reality of AIDS by doing something about it ourselves. Only then can we convince other people of the reality and the seriousness of the epidemic in human terms, in our terms. I want to share with you an interesting way that I've found to look at all this. Having AIDS around, I submit, is like having a giant chasing us. It's a very big, very scary giant, just like the ones that we all deep down inside have in our nightmares. It grabs the people close to us almost at random. When it grabs someone we love, we are overwhelmed with grief and rage and fear. Well, there are only 2 things that you can do when a giant is chasing you. 1, you can run like hell, and 2, you can turn around and face it. Now, I'm not so dumb as to think that facing it makes it any less scary. Facing it is probably one of the scariest things you'll ever do. But a strange thing happens when you turn around and face it. and that is that you yourself feel stronger, and you yourself actually become stronger. All the buddies I talked about at the beginning, and all of us here who are working directly on AIDS services and AIDS issues, I am convinced, do it partly because it actually helps us to deal with AIDS in our own minds. As frightening as it is to face AIDS, it is more frightening still to be running away from it, to have that giant chasing you faster and faster and faster all the time. So I invite each one of you to take a minute right now while I'm talking and either make or reaffirm a very specific commitment in your head to doing something active to deal with the AIDS crisis. I want each of you to think of one specific thing, not everything, nobody can take on everything, but you think of one thing that you can do, okay? We need people to give money, we need people to raise money, lobby legislators, become buddies, staff hotlines, organize educational programs, and yes, that perennial favorite, stuff envelopes. Think of all the different things that you can do. Think of one way you'd like to do them. You can give your time to Babashi, PATF, Action AIDS, and I'm sure there are other groups that have formed and will be forming that are addressing the AIDS issues. If you can't give time, it's probably because you're out there making money. So give money. Give lots of money. Give as much as you possibly can. But the main thing is that you do something, that you, each one of you, actively engage in the helping process, that you, each one of you, turn around and face that giant. People with AIDS and ARC and those of us at risk, which means every single one of us, need your very personal, your very individual help right now. Gay, straight, or bisexual, black, white, or beige, the virus doesn't care, and because it doesn't care, we can't afford to care. This epidemic is literally everyone's business. Even it is as important as it is that we need your help, you need to carry out that one volunteer task that you just assigned yourself for yourself. We all need to cope with our grief, our anger, and our fear by carrying them through into positive action. How much heavier will the load get if we don't do something constructive about it? And if not now, then when are you going to do it? And you'll be amazed, I think, at how much support you'll get for those feelings when you join the ranks of those of us who are taking our feelings into action. One thing you can say about facing down a giant, it certainly does require considerable teamwork. Let me leave you with the words of that great union activist, Mother Jones, who said, "Pray for the dead, but fight like hell for the living."
Consistently ask me, how do you feel? Which is something that really becomes a very straining thing. You feel with your fingers like everybody else. I was first diagnosed with AIDS in October of 1985. It's been an uphill battle ever since. Family has turned their back on me. Wife has left, totally cannot see my children or anything else. I've been, because of someone knowing that I have AIDS, announced it rather loudly on a city bus, and I was asked to excuse myself. City, state, federal agencies refuse to deal with you on a personal level, on a one-to-one level. They'll tell you that either they'll phone you or they will see you at some later time. What you go through psychologically with this is, I cannot find a large enough word for it. It is hell within hell. But it doesn't strike just gays. Everyone throughout the world, throughout the city seems to, excuse me if I walk around because standing here is really killing me, seem to believe that AIDS is just for gays, junkies. That's it, you know, brass tacks. But that's not the case. as she just finished saying, it strikes you all, black, white, polka dot, and all it is just a lack of, and how to, excuse me, I've got to backtrack a bit, because the lack of knowledge, because I, for one, sincerely believe that that's all that struck, was junkies and homosexuals, or as the street language would call it, sissies. You know, and that's not the case. During my illness and the time that I've spent lying there in that bed in a hell of a lot of pain, staring up at the ceiling, after I got myself a bit together, because I went from 162 to 108, and that was in a little over 5 weeks. Weight just down. I went back to New York for a while, because originally that's where I'm from. And I was blessed enough, and I'm not saying lucky, blessed enough to attend a place provided for by Mother Teresa. And I learned a lot. I learned a hell of a lot. I learned to appreciate trees and birds and all of your faces out there, no matter what color, your sexual preference, or whatever. All of that is unnecessary. It's garbage. What matters is, how do you feel about that face next to you? To the other guy, you're the other guy. And to your brother, you're his brother. You're mirrors of yourselves. That's all I'm trying to get out. Everybody is a mirror of the other face that you're looking at. Whether it's woman to woman, man to man, man to woman, woman to man. You all bleed red. And you all catch the same amount of hell. Everybody pays tax and everybody dies. Everybody gets colds, and to not keep you here all night, and really I'm very nervous at this because I've never done this before, so please bear with me. At this present time, I seem to be somewhat at a loss for exactly what I wanted to say, because I have no prepared text. So all I have is exactly what I feel. And I feel unless we somehow or another pull ourselves together and forget about non-sequential things that really don't make any sense, not worth a hill of beans. If the guy or the girl is gay, if the guy or the girl is gay or whatever, it don't make no sense. You know, it's not, the sexual preference is, you know, is their own. All I'm asking you to do is love your brother, love your sister, respect your brother, respect your sister, period. Me as a person who has what I have, I'm at a constant loss for friends that I thought were friends that I found out that I never really had. You know, sister that I thought was my sister was not really so. Brother that I thought was my brother, same. We and we are victims of AIDS. We need love and caressing and the same things that you need. The same feelings that you feel, we feel. The same hurt that you hurt, we hurt. Only 1,000-fold when it comes down to dealing with the pain. And without your support, without your shoulder to cry on sometime, or your arms around one of us, we're totally lost. When I first got sick, I thought about jumping out of a window. And then I figured, well, hell, my luck is batting 0. I mean, I jump out a window, I probably fall on a cop, then I end up getting arrested, beat up. I'm not only sick, but I'm in a world of trouble. I'm in jail to boot. You know? So that's not going to get it. As Anna Forbes says, fight. Fight for life. And as you're fighting for this life, educate not only yourselves, but educate all those who come around you. Any and everybody. Because if you don't stop this onslaught of misinformation, we will be treated, and you yourselves, because you never know how you will come down with it, or if you will come down with it. I thought, as I said, I was, hey, not me, not the kid. I don't mess with, you know, of the other sorts. I'm not into dope, so hey, kids on. Definitely ain't my disease. I'll come down with something nice like leprosy. You know, in the South Bronx yet. But that was not the case. I have it. I'm forced to deal with it on a very, very daily basis. And I hope and I pray that somehow or another something is brought about to stop it, because I wouldn't wish this on my very worst of enemies. And above all, I found out, as the sister said in the beginning, that there is a God, and you do not get it for being a knucklehead. You know, God just doesn't smite you down. You're a sinner, whack! No, it don't happen like that. Not at all. If you do not have a God, find one. Believe me, he's there. It works. I went, like I said, from 108 to what you see now on a consistent 142, which was 24 hours off from what I had, but thank God for small blessings, large blessings, any kind of blessings. If you do not have a God, find one. He works. God bless you. Good night.
Committee to tell you that there will be people who will remain here through the night, and we will gather over by the Love Statue. If you have to go to work from here, we invite you to come by on your way away from work. And if you don't go to work too late in the morning, you might even stop by and give us a word of encouragement in the morning.